Our next featured car belongs to one of the muscle car hobby elders in my hometown. He's also my 13-year-old son's history teacher.
This is a 1967 GTO. It's a hardtop with a 360 horse engine and a 4-speed transmission. Well, I bought this car brand new in 1966 from a dealership in Pittsfield, Haddad's Motors. That's where I was living. I ordered the car. I didn't buy it off the lot. It was kind of fun just taking out the order blank and checking off what you want. It was like customizing a car without really doing all the work. I ordered it with a 360 horse engine, which means it was the second of 3 engines offered by Pontiac. It's called a high output motor, and it's recognized by the big exhaust manifolds. When you get close to the motor, you can see them. I wanted a 4-speed because everybody wanted a 4-speed in those days. It's got a posi rear with 355s. I didn't order too many power options. There's no power steering, there's no power brakes because everybody was interested in going fast. I had the Rally 1 wheels and the red fender liners because that was the picture car for 1966. The Tiger Gold car with a black top and the red fender wells, and I kind of fell in love with it. So I wanted to duplicate that in 67. Probably the biggest disappointment for me was after paying my way through college, I worked a whole year as a teacher and I saved my money for that GTO. And when the 67s came out, I was highly disappointed when they didn't have tri-power. To live with a Pontiac without tri-power was unthinkable. I was lucky in the summer of 67 to work at this very garage where I bought the car, and I was able to buy a 66 tri-power intake off a 66 GTO that the owner wanted a 4-barrel, so I swapped them even. I kept my original 4-barrels upstairs in the attic, but I've had that tri-power on there since 67, the summer of 67, and I just love it. If you look real closely on the engine, if you look down, you can see the big exhaust manifolds. That makes the car an HO or a ram air engine. This one happens to be a HO. And you can see the 66 tri-power setup, which has all the 3 large carburetors. And it's got a fan shroud for the cooling. And it's got the hood light. Over here you can see the red fender wells. As I said before, it's strange that option only cost roughly about, I think, $14 to $20 when I bought the car. And today somebody's offered me over $2,000 for them, which is not too far away from what I paid for the car. I guess it's the rarity of it. Not too many of the cars had them. They're actually nothing more than a very thin piece of plastic covering up the metal inner fender, but for some reason I guess they bring out the color, and rarity makes cars. The inside of the car was ordered with the Rally gauges, which gave you a tachometer and oil pressure gauge and water temperature. It's got a wood steering wheel, and it's got the wood gear shift knob for the GTO in it, and also the wood grain console. And it also has an AM/FM radio. And you can see its price tag was $3,844.41. I do have the original bill of sale that I put on a board when I show the car. That has my name on it with all the options and the salesman's name. This is a 1970 GTO I bought in New Britain, Connecticut. It's got a Judge spoiler on it, but I don't think it's a original Judge. You can see where they painted the stripes on. At one time, this car was supposed to be, well, 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, it was supposed to be the terror of New Britain. It was supposed to be quite fast. Lots of rumors about the car. It was supposed to have a motor built by Lindsay. It does have a 72 455 HO motor in it with headers and a big intake, so it's quite possible it was. That's what I bought the car for. Unfortunately, the original owner died somehow, and the car was given to his brother, who did nothing with it but let it sit outside, and you can see how the lacquer just kind of popped right off without care. That explains the condition of the car, although it really hasn't got many holes in it. So I've sold the car. I'm taking the motor out. The Rally 2 wheel on that car is a mystery to me too, because it's a 15 by 9, and there's no such animal. If somebody made those wheels, they did an awful nice job for it, because you can't tell from looking at the outside. And it's got 4 of them on there, so somebody went to a lot of trouble to make them look original. You can see they also had a power antenna on it. So the car had some nice options, and of course the Judge spoiler. And again, you can see just faintly where somebody tried to paint the Judge stripes on. The car was probably built at a time period when the stripes weren't reproduced, so they painted them on. The only story I have to tell you about the Boneyard is this is how I've paid for all the cars that I have. By buying and selling parts cars and stripping them out, I've managed to float my own hobby. None of the money for my cars has come out of my teaching paycheck. My wife wouldn't hear of it. So this is kind of like my part-time job, and it's paid off nicely. It's paid for the 11 cars that I've owned. And this GTO is kind of a curiosity too, because I've pulled every rubber piece off it, and it's painted silver, and 68 GTOs were not offered in silver. The color, the tag says it's supposed to be spring gold, but I can't find any spring gold in this car at all. But it's got a nice tilt column in it and a nice air conditioning setup, which I hope will find its way into one of my cars, or I'll sell it and make some money to restore another one. This is a car I'm restoring now. It's a 66. It's been a body off. The frame's all been done. Motor hasn't even been started up yet. It's got a NOS 1966 Ram air pan, which is pretty rare, a metal one. And it's got a WS3 60 horsepower engine. It's a 4-speed, close ratio with 390 posi, just like most of the kids would have had. And it was a barrier blue car. Once again, I'm lucky again, it's got the red fender liners. That's probably one of the reasons why I wanted this car so bad, was the red fender liners again. And it's got a parchment interior. Some people call it white, but parchment is the correct color for it. And it's got the tacking gauges and the wood wheel. It's got a rear defogger. It's, again, kind of built the way I like it. No power steering, but does have power brakes. And it's got the factory radiator. And I've been working on it now for about 2 years. And I'm just kind of waiting for my body man right now to go back and do some more on it. Tri-power a little bit there. Pick it up and take it away. Basically, I ordered the car after reading all the hot rod magazines, and I didn't put power steering on it or power brakes. That was told to be power robbing, so I didn't want that. And then the year after I bought the car, I ended up working at the dealership as a part-time job, being a teacher. And I put a tri-power on it in '67 because I really wanted a tri-power real bad, and of course they didn't offer one in '67. And then I painted the back panel black, because that's what the Royal Bobcats were. And then I also had the dealer order the 400 emblems on the hood, which only came on the Firebird. So I did a few little tiny modifications to it when I was young. And everybody tells me I should take them off, but I just can't bring myself to take apart what I had when I was young. And I just love the way the tri-power runs. And it's hard for people who have never grown up in that area of Pontiacs. The Pontiac wasn't a Pontiac without a tri-power. And I almost didn't buy this car because it didn't have a tri-power, but you know, I'm kind of glad we did. And I don't drive it in wintertime. I've got 67,000 miles on it, so I did drive it. And the first few years I probably drove it pretty hard, like most kids did. But for some reason I just hung on to it, and every year it's great. I mean, taking it out every summer is like taking out a brand new car. I guess people recognize me by this car in the area. Being a teacher, all the kids recognize the car, and it's kind of neat. Probably the other thing you got to be careful with this car is that it goes faster than it wants to stop. The brakes aren't up to the car. That's probably one of the downfalls of the car. Probably the only other thing I would have liked to have is a 5-speed tranny. This car is great for acceleration. Again, the turnpike, it needs a 5th gear. Well, probably my most nightmare story with this car is when it was probably 3 or 4 years old, my wife took it shopping. And, you know, that was okay. She drove it. She knew how to operate the 4-speed, so I was cool with that. She had driven it many times before. And I was out in the lawn yard working, not paying much attention, and I heard my car coming. So I look up and I see a black GTO coming in the yard. I said, what the heck is that? Turns out she had driven through a freshly oiled road, and the tire was up almost to the stripes. I don't think I'd panicked so much in my lifetime trying to get that tire off the car. Every once in a while I still find a piece on the undercarriage, a little bit of that tire. It reminds me of what a scary feeling that was, trying to get that tire off. And it was basically a black car. And my neighbors heard me hooting and hollering and screaming from miles away, and they still rib me about it the day my wife comes home with my black car. she doesn't talk about it much. She likes to ignore that particular area. I wasn't too pleased, I guess, when she came home. I belong to the Pontiac Oaken Club in Connecticut and also the one in Boston. And that's one of the nicest clubs I ever joined. I belong to the local club here, which is called Low Yankee Street Rods, which I started in 1968 and is still going. And I still love that club, but it's different being in a Pontiac club because everybody talks the same language. It's kind of neat. Going to a show and everybody's with Pontiacs, everybody's asking you questions. And they find it hard to believe that I bought it brand new. And you know, I think it's held up fairly well. The paint still shines as good as anything you can find. The original lacquer. It is starting to etch a little bit on the trunk and the hood from just age, but I'm trying to hold off painting it for as long as I can. I think when I retire in a few years from school, maybe then I'll have it semi-restored, but nothing drastic. I don't want to turn it into a car that it wasn't. I want to keep it as much original as possible. And I won't take the tri-bar up. I've got the original 4-barrel intake upstairs. Somebody who's driven one knows what it means, so it's neat. Like I said, I've got restored cars, and none of those beat the ride this one has original. I think the one thing that people ask me a lot in the comments is when I show the car, I put the price tag on it, that $32.50, and they all go, "Wow, what a buy, what a steal!" And I just kind of smile at them because they don't realize that was my first year teaching. And I only got paid $5,400 for a whole year's worth of teaching out of college. So basically, if you deduct taxes from that, I basically spent my entire first year salary to buy this car. So it's not as cheap as people think it was. It's just that $32.50 today sounds reasonable.